Hello and welcome to round 10 of NEAFL TV, a round where for the first time since late April, all 14 teams were in action on the same weekend. Let's start with our first game at Moines on Saturday morning. Adelaide travelled to take on Sydney University. With a swag of stars lining up for either side, on paper this game looks set to be absolutely cracking, and early on it did not disappoint.
Off the socket off the ground, Tommy Elkington gets the first goal for Sydney Uni.
The first 20 minutes was very evenly matched, with some of the best football scenes so far this year on display.
Clinton French puts it straight through the middle, and that's Aspley's fourth.
But as well as Sydney University started the quarter, Aspley got on top towards the end of the term.
And kick this off the left foot. Jed Turner makes no mistake. Oh, lovely piece of play there by the big fella.
Despite the best efforts of Matt O'Dwyer and Will Serakowski in the backline for the students, Aspley looked very dangerous going forward. A shining light for the NEAFL in their representative match against the Waffle last week, Eddie Sainsbury from Aspley was again on fire. The Hornets, who started the season a little bit slowly by their standards, have really begun to hit their straps, and they surged into half-time. With former Brisbane Lions Shaney Stiller and Robert Copeland repelling attacks from the backline, the Hornets started to look more and more like the team which made last year's Northern Conference Grand Final.
It landed in the arms of Stiller, who kicked a lovely goal.
Despite the best efforts of Elkington and Howard up forward for the students, Aspley were simply a class above. Led by 7 goals from Eddie Sainsbury, the Hornets ran out 18-10, 118 to 7-2-44 wins.
Sainsbury, he's got pressure from O'Dwyer, but he just composes himself, makes no mistake. Oh, he's been a powerhouse for the Hornets today, Edward Sainsbury.
Our next game's up in Queensland. It's a local derby between the Lions and the Suns. The Lions got a host of stars who played a lot of senior footy back for this game, but it was young academy product Jono Freeman who got them going early. Freeman, a developing key forward, kicked the Lions' first couple of goals and they skipped out to an early lead. But Gold Coast was able to peg back a couple of goals late on in the first term, and they trailed by just 8 points at quarter time. Under clear skies at Moreton Bay Central Sports Complex, there was a flurry of goals in the second term, with 12 majors kicked. While both sides hit the scoreboard, it was the Lions who had the better of the term. Led by Isaac Conway, Michael Close and Jordan Burke up forward, the Lions looked dangerous every time they entered their attacking half. Big man Timmy Sumner and Henry Shade tried hard for the Suns up forward, but Brisbane extended its lead. Brisbane's Rowan Buick put his hand up for senior selection with a 32 possession display. Nick Robinson won 27 touches and Tom Cutler amassed 26. Bullocking midfielder Carmichael Hunt was again the Suns' best, racking up 30 touches and kicking a goal, but it wasn't enough. His side going down by 61 points. Now Ainsley was out to prove it's the pick of the Canberra teams this year, travelling to Sydney to take on the Hills Eagles. Sydney Hills Eagles were out to keep their finals hopes alive, whereas Ainsley wanted to prove that they're a real finals contender. Under blue skies at Bruce Purser Reserve, the home ground advantage was non-existent for the Eagles. They gave up 7 goals in the first term. Despite his team battling all over the ground, Sydney Hills Eagles forward Mark Weeks was outstanding. But as good as Weeks was up forward for the Eagles, Ainsley pair Nick Salter and Nick Payne were just as good, kicking 4 each for the game. Mathis and Fleming chipped in with 3 goals each for the Tricolours. Vandenberg kicked a couple and Ainsley had too many goal-scoring options for the Eagles. They say the midfield is where games are won and lost, and with Ash Harris, Mitch Mulrooney and Aaron Vandenberg, the Tricolours had too much class. On paper, the Redlands and Southport game looked to be an absolute cracker and didn't disappoint. There's a lot of history between these two proud Queensland clubs, and they've waged some titanic battles over the past few years, not least of which was the 2012 preliminary final, where Southport won with a kick after the siren. Redland has won 3 of the last 5 clashes between these sides, and they are on top ever so slightly early on.
And he will go back and shoot for goal.
Playing against his old side, Redland spearhead Cleve Hughes showed why he's out in front as the leading goal kicker in the competition.
And it isn't at all. Cleve Hughes, he is a quality player.
Hughes got amongst the goals, but Southport linchpin Josh Baxter wasn't to be outdone, kicking a couple of majors of his own.
They get around him, and well they should.
Former Broadbeach pair Mitch Brewer and Cal Geary also contributed on the scoreboard and wrenched their side back into the contest.
Comes in, lumbers, kicks it pretty nicely and it squeezes through.
However, despite that surge, Rogerson and Thompson were controlling the game through the midfield for the Bombers and they led by 22 points at the last change. But 22 points isn't a lot when you've got the firepower that the Sharks have, and they came roaring back into the contest late.
Game on!
Southport kicked 5 goals to 2 in the last term and actually finished with one more scoring shot, but they were on the wrong side of the ledger, losing by just 4 points.
Pursued by the other captain, Cast. Burge, too much. And it's been, oh, and there's a siren! What a game! What an incredible game of NEAFL.
Now to Dairy Farmers Park and a Canberra rivalry where Belconnen took on Queanbeyan. After a bye and then a week off for last week's representative game, Belconnen were very fresh and they were up and about with the return of Mulrooney medalist James Bennett. The Tigers had a couple of key players back themselves, with Ben King returning from a medial ligament strain and Jared Atkinson also playing. As even as the contest was early, the Magpies broke the game wide open in the second term, kicking 6 goals to 2. Dominic Bunyan and Daniel Posh hit the scoreboard for the Magpies and they looked by far the better team. Belconnen stretched their lead to 34 points at three-quarter time and their second win of the season looked in the offing. Despite the best efforts of Ryan Quaid, who finished with 4 goals for the Tigers, and Jared Atkinson, who kicked a couple, it was not nearly enough. Belconnen notching their second win of the year, 17-11, 113 to 11-12, 78. Now to the top of the table clash at Moines, Sydney Swans hosted NT Thunder. With this game, part of a landmark AFL Indigenous round double-header at Moines, there was a welcome to country before the game, with Aspley and Sydney University on the field along with the Swans and Thunder. With a crowd of around 800 in attendance, including Sydney Swans senior stars Nick Smith and Ted Richards, the men in red and white started well.
Kick as well, and he's got the Sydney Swans' first goal this afternoon, Tom Mitchell.
Sydney spearhead Tim Membry stuck in line behind Kurt Tippett and Lance Franklin, but in pretty much any other team, he would be one of the first picked.
And he likes it, and with good reason.
Membry was on fire in front of the big sticks for the Swans, moving to 29 goals for the year with a bag of 4 majors.
So Membry, a reliable kick on goal, makes no mistake, Tim Membry.
Unlucky to be dropped from the senior side, young speedster Brandon Jack was electric all afternoon. With the ladder-leading Thunder's top position in doubt, Liam Patrick did his best to lift his side.
Torpedo, it's a great kick. Alira. Oh, wow, Liam Patrick flying. That would have been spectacular.
But Patrick's near ridiculous hanger was one of few highlights for the Thunder, who was simply outclassed on the day.
Side to Brandon Jack.
20 of the Swans' 22 were AFL-listed players, and top-up Isaac Heaney looks like he could be a first-round draft pick. With midfielders Dan Robinson and Zach Jones brilliant through the centre of the ground, the Swans were never challenged. Big men Toby Nankervis and Sam Naismith also impressed for Sydney, but they had winners all over the ground.
And Naismith with a solid mark.
A late flurry of goals from NT Thunder, including a few from Darren Buff-Ewing, wasn't enough to get them anywhere near the Swans. Sydney running out 23-12, 150 to 12-11, 83 winners and taking top spot.
Top of the table clash, Sydney Swans victors here today at Moines Oval.
The round finished on Sunday afternoon as the Giants took on Eastlake. Coming off a record 191 point shellacking of the Suns last week, the Giants were in a similar mood to begin this game, peppering the big sticks. As dominant as the Giants were, the Demons were absolutely toothless, getting smashed through the midfield and having no avenues to goal. In fact, they were goalless in the first half, kicking just 2 behinds. The Giants kicked 10 first half goals and continued the carnage in the third term, led by #1 draft pick Tom Boyd. While Boyd was good and finished with 4 goals, it was midfielder Mark Wiley who continued his sterling start to the year, racking up a ton of possessions and kicking 4 majors of his own. James Stewart was also very good as a goal-kicking midfielder. He finished with 3 goals, and Josh Hunt, the former Geelong Premiership star, is relishing his move up forward. He kicked a couple. In stark comparison, Eastlake didn't kick its first six-pointer until early in the fourth quarter. The Demons finished with 2 goals for the game. The Giants piled on 19 and UWS looking very, very good indeed. 130 to 19 wins. Now to the ladder, and there's a new leader with the Swans out on top ahead of the Thunder on percentage. Then it's the Giants, Redland, Aspley and Southport to round out the top 6. Ainsley, Sydney University, the Lions, Queanbeyan, Sydney Hills Eagles, Belconnen, Eastlake and the Gold Coast. To round 11, and it's another full round of games, starting with Queanbeyan and the Hills Eagles, then it's Sydney University and Belconnen, Eastlake and Ainsley, Brisbane Lions and Redland, Aspley and Southport, the Giants and Thunder and the Suns take on the Swans. That's all we've got time for this week's episode of NEAFL TV. Don't forget, during the week, check the website, check the app. I'm Sam Canavan. See you next time.